Whenever I'm asked what JHS pedal are you most proud of over the years, it is undoubtedly the Colour Box, which is our take on a 1073 style preamp in a pedal format. And I've never had a great opportunity to display all that it does properly. So to celebrate its 10th birthday, I'm going to show you everything that it does on electric guitars, acoustic guitars, bass guitar, keys, drums, and vocals. This also gives me the opportunity to release this 10th anniversary gray colorway that several people have asked for over the years. I'll get into that later. The idea for the Colour Box started in 2012 when I became really obsessed with Spoon's album Gimme Fiction. I heard these guitars that were plugged directly into a console and they were distorting, they were fuzzy, and there was no amp. It was very bizarre and very cool to me. Then I realized a lot of classic songs by the Beatles, Steely Dan, and other artists had been doing this, but I never put two and two together. So I wanted to make a pedal, and I wanted that pedal to give you that sound if you were using an amp. So in a way, it was make a guitar pedal, almost make your amp sound like it doesn't have a speaker, and you're doing this direct input distortion. During this time, I found myself in a conversation with my amp repair tech here in Kansas City. Cliff was an amazing guy. He built a lot of studio preamps and loved the studio world. So I pitched out this crazy idea because I knew that I didn't have the chops to fully develop the circuit that I heard in my head. We finished the design and the pedal morphed into something I actually never saw. It turned into a full-blown Neve 1073 style studio grade preamp device in a pedal. This is the first prototype format. We made 4 to 8 of these and they were put in the hands of several bands that I really loved. Jeff Tweedy of Wilco used them, and also the guys from Spoon used them to actually play songs that inspired the pedal. It was a pretty wild moment for me. In January of 2014, super excited with one working prototype, I showed this off at NAMM. I wasn't ready to sell it, but I had one and I wanted everyone to know about it. I made a bunch of dummy units, I think 10, 15, or 20, and we put them all over the amps. People saw it, they loved it, and people even stole a few. They were probably disappointed to find that it didn't work, but they looked awesome. Then I was ready to sell the product and needed to record a demo, and I thought there's no better place to go than Abbey Road Studio 2, where the Beatles really pioneered the use of plugging in the guitar and distorting it straight into the mixer. I rented Studio 2 and I made the first ever demos using this gray Colour Box. But after getting home, seeing all the demos, and realizing I had a lot of gray pedals in the JHS lineup, I couldn't shake the feeling that the pedal needed to be white. So I changed the color to white, and a few of you were disappointed.
You're a crumb creep coward. I want to fight you. You don't have the courage. You're a real crumb bum.
As a pedal builder, offering a $399 pedal is a little scary, but that's how it had to be. It has real Landau transformers. It is a studio grade preamp, but people latched on immediately and fell in love with it. I was getting texts from Mac DeMarco to Spoon, who put it back on the boards for the next tour. I was seeing the War on Drugs put it at the front of house on the Master Fader. We started seeing it in the Tame Impala touring rigs. Beck had it at every station on his tour. Keys, bass, guitars. I remember The Edge posting a pile of pedals when they were recording, and on this big pile of pedals sat the Colour Box. That absolutely blew me away. And then I saw Matt Bellamy of Muse in the studio, Colour Box setting up behind him. It was pretty amazing to see a pedal that was so risky and weird and out of the box be accepted so well. Many of you were lucky enough to get these hand-painted editions in the V1 era. These are really cool and rare. And then later on, we did the crayon. This was originally all I wanted, but it evolved and evolved because of Cliff's abilities and imagination. But this is simply the red section of the Colour Box put into a single, more easily accessible pedal. 2017, I had another idea. I wanted to expand JHS more into the studio space because before pedals, I worked in studios and I've always loved engineering and producing. And so the Colour Box was part of that part of my brain. And I wanted to do more of that. So we released a 500 series rack line, and the Colour Box 500 was quite an achievement. This is where it started. This is how do we take the V1 and make it a literal powerhouse studio unit. We learned so much here. These units came to an end, but we continued this exact topology circuit almost part for part in the V2. This pedal is this. Both transformers, everything crammed into this box. This is how that giant board ended up becoming a pedal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 breadboards glued together, just pure madness. Cliff was really ingenious and did a fantastic job getting all this into that enclosure. So the V2 might look like a pedal, but it's a true studio grade preamp that just happens to have a foot switch. The Colour Box version 2 controls are pretty straightforward. You have a red section. That section is the master volume, a pre-volume, which you should consider as a gain control. And then you have a step control. Each step is both 1073 circuits in series, raising gain at the same time. Then you have a high pass section. It lets you just tune in certain instruments that have too much low end content that kind of ruin how they pop out in the mix. The blue section is a 3-band equalizer with shift knobs that control the Q of each band. On the treble, mids, and bass controls, turning those counterclockwise cuts the frequency, while turning them clockwise boosts the frequency. Turning the shift controls clockwise will move the Q into the higher frequencies of that band, and turning them counterclockwise will move the Q to the lower frequencies of that band. It's a really powerful EQ. You have a high-low switch. This allows you to go to low when things are clipping too much, like an active bass. And you might want to go to high on most things. On the output side, you have a direct box out or XLR out parallel with a 1/4 inch out. You can use these together or independently, whatever your needs are. Then on the input side, you have a combo Nutric jack. You can plug in a standard 1/4 inch guitar cable or a microphone cable. If you plug in a guitar cable, make sure it's on instrument. If you plug in a mic, make sure it's on XLR. You also have a negative 20 dB cut. This is for things that are very, very hot and again, would distort the transformer and the signal. Basic 9-volt power and an on and off indicator next to the foot switch. It's really important to know it can pass 48 volts phantom power from your interface or other studio equipment. This allows you to use, with phantom power, a condenser mic like a U47 or other condensers. Let's take the 10th anniversary edition gray box, put it through various instruments and show you how it works. A must try for the Colour Box is electric guitar direct in. So back in the day, people simply took the guitar, they would plug directly into their Neve or API console, and the sound is absent of a speaker. It doesn't have an amp, it doesn't have a preamp really, it's just straight into the channel. So the way this works with the Colour Box is really simple because the Colour Box is a direct box mixer channel. It's 1073 bass like a Neve. So we plug straight in and we come out of an XLR right into Pro Tools. Here is the bypass. Not bad and useful, but it gets a lot better when you add tone shaping, EQ, and the gain controls. That gives us that really clean and crisp sound. One of my favorite uses has always been the way that NXS put it in their recordings. Cuts through really nice. Off. It's an alternative way to have a guitar sound. You get rid of the amp and you get this totally different voice for your guitar. And in the spirit of my favorite DIN sounds, I'm going to add some stereo chorus via a plugin in Pro Tools and also some studio compression because that's how they always did it. I want to demonstrate the Colour Box as a boost, overdrive, distortion, fuzz. So I have the Kemper set with a vintage Fender Bassman, and it's on the verge of breakup. What I want to show you here is how the 5 stages work and how they relate to the pedal when we think about things like what's a boost, what's an overdrive, what's a distortion, what's a fuzz. I recommend putting your volume and pregain at noon and moving through the steps to experience all 5 textures of distortion. So with that said, I'm going to start on step 1. I have a little bit of EQ here, but it really depends on the amp you're using, so don't focus too much on that. Here's the bypass. And here's step 1. If I want it to be more overdriven, just turn the pre-volume up. So let's go to step 2. This is going to be more of an overdrive. I would put this in the category of what a Klon Centaur does, what an overdrive 250 DoD does, stuff like that. Bypass. If you mess with the mid control here on step 2, you can get those tube screamer sounds that you might want, etc. As we go to step 3, we're kind of getting into a hard clipping kind of tone. It's going to start sounding like a Rat or a DS1. Off. And I'm going to turn this pre-gain up just so you can hear how heavy it could get in that stage. It kind of lets you turn that distortion into a fuzz, almost like a tone bender. Here's stage 4. Now we're just getting into a lot more fuzz potential and a lot more true distortion, square wave clipping. I can cut that control and find really interesting overdrive sounds in the distortion parameter, if that makes sense. So back up to noon, and let's just blow it out. So step 5 is the most potential gain in the circuit. I'm at halfway on the control. The way that works, and so that you fully understand it, is 2 1073 preamps running into each other, one into the other. And as you move the step control, both of them are here. If I go to 2, it raises to here, 3 is here, and that one in the front just starts destroying the second one. And so that's why on step 5 you have the fuzz sound. Let me show you the Colour Box on acoustic guitar. There are 2 primary ways that you want to record it or play live with it. One is use a microphone. This is the best sounding out of all the cases in every situation, no matter what the gear. The other is you have a plug-in to an acoustic guitar, which goes to some type of pickup device, usually located under the bridge. Or in this case, I have an LR Baggs Anthem, which has kind of a blended microphone with the pickup under the bridge. So let's do that first. And this is what that sounds like straight into Pro Tools, Colour Box off. Sounds pretty good, actually. So let's turn on the Colour Box and start shaping and use that as a direct box. We did a little bit of high pass, so that gets rid of really low rumble in an acoustic. And then the bass and mid shift are all the way up. And this actually gets rid of some of the honk EQ frequency that you don't want in an acoustic. We're on step 1, a totally clean, undirty signal. So let's turn it on. Next up is what you typically have in a studio situation, or what you at least strive for. That is a good condenser mic, pointed at the neck body joint of the acoustic. So this is a Warm Audio 14. It's kind of an AKG classic mic that you would use for an occasion like this. Here is what it sounds like straight into Pro Tools. Again, it sounds good because it's a good mic and the guitar sounds good. We want to make it sound better by adding the Colour Box as a studio preamp. We have a little bit of high pass again. We have a different situation with the mids. We're not really having to mess with them much because the mic is hearing the true frequency of the guitar and not some of the weird stuff that happens with a pickup being inside the guitar. So really this is just going to make it sound more full. It's going to give it body. And you're going to hear the effects of the transformers that are inside. This is a classic bass DI use of the Colour Box. I've seen more bass players than maybe electric guitar players on stage with this because it makes a fantastic put it in your gig bag, and this is all you need direct in. So we're going XLR out, straight into Pro Tools, and here is the bypass sound. It's good, but I want different things from that direct sound. I want it a little bit brighter. I want more attack in the treble, and then I want a more full low end. So that's a fantastic DI bass sound. Let's add some drums. The next sound I want to demonstrate is something that the Colour Box really excels at, and that is a dirtier style tone. You usually hear this in bands like U2, The Killers, or even Tame Impala, and sometimes it involves a pick. So I'll take the P bass, a pick, and I'm going to give this some dirt. I'm going to pull the treble back where I normally like some treble in the bass for presence, but what happens is when you add the dirt, you get that treble in the high end of the dirt. This setting is just going to have a lot of attack. It's still going to have some low end, and it's going to have more mids. The next bass sound, I grabbed the old Epiphone hollow body, kind of go after the Paul McCartney-ish, Hofner-ish, weird Beatles-ish thing, whatever that means. I'm gonna bump the mids on this. Not much dirt, but just a little. I also am playing through an Ampeg amp plug-in on the other side of Pro Tools, so. So the Colour Box is just adding definition, a little more of what's perceived as a hollowness or kind of a good honk sound. I really don't know how to describe it. It's just that weird thing that they did back in the day that people still do, and you can do it too. Good honk! Honk. A very popular use of the Colour Box has always been on keys. So friend Eric is here. We can actually play. I can play some of Chopsticks, but you don't want to hear that. This is a Nord. very popular piano, has a lot of sounds. Let's do like a traditional piano sound. What you got here? It's good. I mean, what do you think?
A little small.
Immediately to me, it just needs more presence.
I
Like
agree.
an upright piano needs to feel brighter and kind of clanky in a beautiful way. So play it. I have a setting here and I'm gonna mess with the treble control. Treble makes a huge difference in this piano sound. Also the low end, play for just a second. I'm gonna move the bass. This is basically like somebody hands you normal sweet tea, but you're like me, you're from Alabama, and it's not sweet enough, so you just sweeten it more. It's not that the Nord's bad, it's just that it's not great. One of my favorite keys sounds is Rhodes. It's amazing. It's always better dirty. So historically, all the songs that we love with Rhodes, usually they plug it into the mixer desk, they distort the channel, and it's pretty much that simple. So that's what we're doing here. We're gonna use this as a channel strip, add some dirt, and make it more better. One of my favorite uses that I've ever seen is how drummers latched onto this immediately. Some of my favorite drummers on earth have this setting by them in Instagram videos, or you see it on stages and definitely in the studio. It's really important to show you how that functions and for you to know that everything you've heard so far, the drums have been running through color boxes. So Nick, take it away and show us what we've been hearing and show us some more.
Yeah.
Okay, so on drums, I have a mono overhead, warm audio, WA87 R2. And on the kick drum, I have a ribbon mic. It's the AEA R92. And on snare, an SM7. I'm running each of these microphones through their own color box. So let's take a look at each microphone and how the color boxes are affecting them. So first, this is the snare with no color box on it. The main thing that this is doing is taking out some papery mids. And I'm also getting rid of some trashier sounding high end. The bass section is pretty much straight up the middle, and that's all I'm doing for the snare. Next, we're gonna look at the kick drum. Here's the kick without color box. Here's the kick with the color box. For this, I am getting rid of some unwanted mid-range. I am boosting some treble, just a little bit to give it a little bit of attack. And then I am also boosting some of the low end as well. Let's listen to the overheads without any color box on it. Another thing that's important to note is this is in Omni mode. And on. Similarly to the snare color box, I am cutting some of those papery mids that I don't like, and I'm getting rid of some of that trashy high end that's just getting like too, I don't know, it's just too much. I am boosting some low end, a similar range as the kick drum as well. Now let's listen to the full kit with all the color boxes off, and then I'll turn them back on. Now that I have the color boxes dialed in, I am going to add some post-processing, just some parallel compression and some room reverb to give it some space. And I'm also going to do a little bit of compression on the kick drum and the snare. On the drum bus, I'm going to use the oxide tape just to give a little more glue to the whole sound. I'll play it once without post-processing and then with the post-processing.
The last thing I want to show you is the color box on vocals. It is a phenomenal vocal preamp. It has a wonderful color and character, and the EQ does everything you would need it to do. It also passes phantom power, so when you're using your interface, any mic you want to throw on the vocals, you can process through the color box.
Well, they never tell you when you grow up, baby, yeah, you grow up so fast.
Now that we have our singer-songwriter seated, Warm 14 in front of him on the vocal, it's running through this in the way that the acoustic was running through that same mic. The DI setting on the acoustic, we've left it alone. So what you heard in the guitar demo, it's the same exact sound. We added some plate reverb to the vocal, simply ran in parallel with the XLR out. So all that means is the XLR out here, that is the mic channel. He created another channel, and that's the 1/4 inch out in parallel through the Strymon reverb into its own channel, so you can blend that in. The reverb pedal is set to full reverb, full wet. We actually do have a little bit of dirt because saturation on vocals is classic and it really makes them pop. The mid shift is pushed, a little bit of cut on all of the frequency bands, and more high pass. So we're getting rid of some of the thumpy low end stuff that happens on a microphone. So let's start with it engaged, and then I'll be turning it on and off as he sings, and that'll drive him crazy.
2, 3, 4. Well, they never tell you when you grow up, baby, yeah, you grow up so fast. No, they never tell you some things, darling, yeah, some things just don't last. No, they never tell you when you grow up, baby, yeah, you grow up so fast. No, they never tell you some things, darling, yes, some things just don't last. And I could have been the one to be your friend when everything around you, baby, comes crashing in. Comes crashing in. Comes crashing in. Comes crashing in.
Do you have like a tip jar?
Money, please.
I'm extremely proud of the color box and what it has become in the guitar and recording industry. It's amazing to see that it took off and has a life of its own, and it's been used on so many records, so many shows, and it's helped create so many different things for so many musicians. This 10-year thing is a big deal, and again, to celebrate it, we have this 10th anniversary gray edition. It's available until the end of 2024. It's not limited in quantity. We'll make as many as people order, but we will stop making these in December because the 10th year anniversary will be over. Thanks so much for an amazing 10 years and giving this Colour Box a chance. Let me know in the comments if you've ever seen it in one of your favorite players or musicians' rigs, what your favorite use of it is out in the wild, and then even in today's episode, what really impressed you and maybe where you would want to use it on your own. Have a wonderful day and see ya.